I've never liked my nose. It's been an insecurity of mine ever since I was super young. And there have been many moments where I've actually thought, should I get surgery? Should I get a nose job? Is this something that is for me? And it doesn't help that throughout the years, I've felt occasionally a bit of positive reinforcement every time I said that I didn't like my nose and that, well, I was considering surgery. You know, I remember very vividly an encounter that I had with a beautician that I knew. She was not a stranger, she was not being rude, but I told her that I wasn't very happy with my nose, that maybe I was thinking about this or that, and she sort of agreed and told me that it would be an easy fix, that I just had to make it pointier or whatever. So it's not like this person was hating on my nose or that they directly told me that it was ugly or anything like that, but I never got that comment on like, wow, but your nose is great the way it is. You know, it was always like, I actually don't like my nose, and people sort of saying between the lines, okay, I get that. Maybe they were just trying to agree with me. Yes, I'm not coming for these people. I'm not saying that it's people's fault. If I'm insecure about my nose, it's my own insecurity. Why do I come here to talk about this? Well, it's because it's been a debate with myself whether or not I have to get surgery or I should get surgery. One part of me feels like it's just a way to change something about myself that I'm sort of insecure about. But another part of me sees that my nose carries a sort of heritage, that there is a history attached to it, tied to it, and I shouldn't deny it. And I think that I've been smart enough through the years to know that if I don't like my nose, it's probably because I've been influenced not to like it. Nevertheless, I'm just a girl. And at the end of the day, it's kind of hard sometimes to fight against all those influences, you know, all those perfect noses that you see walking around, whether they're naturally like that or because of surgery, all those inputs from social media, all this normalization that we're experiencing of cosmetic surgery and nose jobs in particular. So it's been tough. It's been an actual debate that I have on my mind. It's a debate in between desire or insecurity, more like it, and reason. So the objective for this video today is gonna be to tell you why I say that I think I've been conditioned to hate my nose by looking into the history of rhinoplasties, because there is a lot of history into it. We're gonna look into the racism of it all, to put it bluntly. And it's also, towards the end, gonna be a little bit about replying, hopefully with your help, to a question that I've had throughout the years, which is, if being beautiful can make my life easier, is it a completely reasonable and logical choice to get plastic surgery? If I could objectively improve my life by being prettier, should I get it? Is that the smart choice? And I know that this sounds crazy. I know that you guys, I'm like, how can you be a feminist? You're saying all of this, but just stay with me, okay? We're gonna look into this. We're gonna debate this. I'm gonna put a very specific example and also just chat a little bit more about the past video and some things that I want to address about this channel, about me, about you guys. Let's leave that for later. Should we start? Chapter 1. The history of reconstructive rhinoplasty. The first accounts that we have of any kind of nose surgery go back to Egypt. But the first accounts that we have of an actual rhinoplasty, of a nose job, colloquially speaking, it's from the 6th century before Christ in India. The surgeon and physician to perform this surgery was called Sushruta, and he reflected all of this in his text Sushruta Samhita. This guy was doing things that nobody had done ever before and that nobody would do until a lot of centuries later. This amazing guy had reconstructed a nose using a skin flap from the forehead of the patient. This, in modern terms, is called a skin graft. The reason for the development of nose surgeries in India was the fact that nose mutilation was a common religious and criminal punishment. And like I was telling you, this method was so revolutionary that it won't be until the 15th century that we'll see more development of it. Until then, the Indian method was the one that was still being used. In the 15th century, the Italian surgeons Branca, father and son, they were a father and a son, inspired by the Indian technique, obviously, developed the method using an arm's flap instead of a forehead flap. Another century later, their technique was refined by surgeon Tagliacozzi into what is considered the Italian rhinoplasty. And it is thought that the reason for this development was, again, a rise on the popular demand of them. The popular demand in the 15th and 16th century in Europe was syphilis. There was an epidemic of syphilis going on in Europe because Europeans are nasty. And so in the late stages of this disease, apparently your nose gets really damaged. So a lot of people were looking into reversing that damage with nose jobs. You're gonna see that I'm gonna go kind of fast into it because I want to focus more on the 20th century, because I think that's where we get into the interesting point of this video. It was at the end of the 19th century when rhinoplasty suffered a huge change. Until then, nose jobs were reconstructive. You were fixing noses because they weren't functioning right. But during this time, because of the development of less invasive procedures with less visible scarring, that is what they do today, which is basically that they operate, is that the right word? They do surgery on your nose from the inside of the nose instead of the outside, so it heals better. Nose jobs became cosmetic, more related to the appearance of the nose and making it visually pleasant than to reconstruct it from a medical and functioning standpoint. The first surgeon to introduce corrective aesthetic rhinoplasty will be John Orlando Rowe in 1887 in the United States. And this will change it all, guys. This is the start of where we are today. Chapter 2, nose surgery in the 20th century. The first half of the 20th century was a time for experimentation in the world of rhinoplasties. They were developing a lot, but behind all that development, there was a lot of, I guess, trial and error. And there is actually a very interesting story to illustrate that, and that is the story of Gladys Mary Deacon, Duchess of Marlborough. This woman was a beautiful woman, but for some reason at 22 years old, she decided to get a rhinoplasty. She wanted to get a more straight nose, kind of like a Greek nose. And she went with a surgeon that injected paraffin wax in her nose. In the beginning, it looked absolutely gorgeous. Like, I have to admit that it gave her a very unique look. But with time, the problem with paraffin wax is that it started to migrate all the way down here, and it just stayed there, kind of like filler that accumulates under your skin. I've read that even for a while, she had to give shape to her own nose so that the wax would stay in place. That didn't work. The wax migrated all the way down to her chin, and she started to get super self-conscious about it. And due to that botched surgery, she became a recluse. She didn't go out, and she completely isolated herself in her house pretty much until the day she died, which is such a shame. But it's also, I don't know, I thought this story was interesting to illustrate how thankful I am that we live in a time where medicine has been a lot more developed, and also at a time where trials are so much more developed that, you know, it's not like there's not any margin of error inside of medicine, but we are lucky to live in the time that we are living. Let's keep it going. The problem is that as the surgery, as the medical world was developing, there was also an ideology and certain political movements developing in Europe as well. Ideologies around racism, eugenics, xenophobia were starting to arise, and with everything, because everything is political, surgeries were being affected too. If we go a little bit backwards in time to the 18th century and the 19th century, we will see that anatomy was already quite racist. Let's just put it like that. It was believed by many that anatomy was a marker for being civilized, for being educated, for how intelligent a race was. And of course, it was non-European features that were labeled as primitive, as ugly, as inferior. This had already been happening, but during the 20th century, we will see that this will be translated into rhinoplasties. During this time, because of many reasons, like the conflicts that were happening in Europe, because of the migration that was reaching the United States, all of these migratory movements that were happening, noses started to be categorized into ethnicities or races. There was the Jewish nose, there was the Negroid nose, there was the Asian nose, and obviously the ideal remained a Northern European nose. It was so crazy that noses were sort of recommended as a way to achieve racial integration. Like, for example, when Jewish people will escape from the war in Europe and move to the United States, or escape to the United States, they will get a nose surgery to blend in better. And there have been cases even among Black people or brown people to get surgery to assimilate, maybe if they were light-skinned, into society and live more like a white person instead of a Black person, because of the huge racism that was happening at the time, right? So what I mean is that when you went to get surgery as a person of color, the only ideal possible for your nose will be to get the nose that looked the most as a Northern European nose. There wasn't any consideration of what will suit you best, what is best for your anatomy, for your bone density, for your skin thickness, etc., etc. As a result, these noses from people of color that were getting surgery, some of them collapsed because their anatomy was simply not fitted for the nose shapes that they were giving them, they were getting. This conception of the ideal of beauty, even in surgery, stayed well until the 70s to the 90s, where the term ethnic surgery started to arise among professionals. Ethnic surgery refers to the belief that you should perform surgery on a patient taking into consideration their racial background. The problem with this ethos, and the reason why I've read a lot of accounts that are kind of against it, is because you still create race categories. You still label noses as Asian or Eastern European or Jewish or black nose. So in the end, you're kind of falling again into a certain racial determination in the belief that everyone that belongs to X race has X amount of features and that they all look the same, which is, we know now, not true. Another argument against ethnic surgery that I fully agree with is, even if you say you're performing ethnic surgery, what is your goal when you perform surgery on a patient? What is your ideal of beauty? What is it that you're trying to achieve? Because if deep down your ideal of a perfect nose is still a stereotypical Northern European nose, then what was the point of all of this, right? Are we deconstructed enough to not consider a Northern European stereotypical nose as the ideal of beauty, as the utmost level of beauty and symmetry? Are we really? No, we're not. Chapter 3, Surgery in Venezuela and Brazil. In relation to what I was saying before, I want to talk about the specific cases of the countries of Brazil and Venezuela. The only reason why I want to address this is because I found two very interesting articles that I will link down below. When talking about Brazil, Rhin talks about biopolitics as a term to describe how biology or how anatomy and how bodies have been politicized. He talks about how at the beginning of the 20th century, to prove that black bodies, brown bodies, indigenous bodies were a mark for ugliness and primitive behaviors, scientists were taking pictures of ill bodies, of ill black bodies, ill brown bodies, and ill indigenous bodies, as if that was the normality of those bodies. This, and because of other factors, created a sensation in Brazil that beauty was actually white beauty, and that beauty was a way to ascend socially. The problem is that to ascend socially, you had to be beautiful, and what was considered beautiful were traditionally white features. So when you went into these clinics as a brown person, as a black person, or whatever, what you were aspiring to is to that. Many Brazilians associate beauty with race, class, and gender inequalities. Thus, the body emerges as a site of power struggles. But the way this power works seems to remain hidden. While beauty's effects are often brutal, its place in Brazilian society is at once obvious and ethereal. For me, this is what makes beauty such a powerful force. Its hegemony exists because so much hope is associated with it. Un pintalabios ocupa el cielo una niña, una espina ocupa un continente, y un continente no cabe en él porque cabe en mi pecho, y mi pecho tiene su amor, de su amor, no me acuerdo. You see what I'm saying? Beauty as a social ladder. Isn't that what we're going through today? And then talking about Venezuela, something that we're also going through today. Lauren remarks how nose jobs are usually tied to low self-esteem, you know, like the insecurity of the individual, the insecurity of a woman or a man who goes to get plastic surgery, and it ends there. But no, the desire to get a nose surgery very often is tied to a racial marginalization. Again, for the same reason as in Brazil, right? If the upper classes, if the elite, if the successful all happen to have white features through surgery or not, whatever, they're giving you a message over there. And isn't that what we're going through today? Don't you think that's what we're going through today? We live at a time where you can capitalize on your beauty. We can discuss whether that has been possible in the past too or not, but now we're seeing it more clear than ever, you know. Some people are there just because they are beautiful. That doesn't mean that they're also funny or intelligent or whatever, but maybe the entry point is their beauty. There is a certain hope, you know, when a 16-year-old girl that is trying to make it on social media already to be like the person that she admires, look at herself and compares herself. What does she have that I don't have? Do I need this? Maybe I need this, you know, to post a TikTok and go viral because of my beauty. Because that happens. That is a thing that we've seen it happen. It happens. It's the same case in this. And even though this is very particular to Venezuela and Brazil, because these authors are talking about these countries, it explains very well what is happening worldwide and in our generation. Beauty as hope, right? As a way out. I've made a lot of videos about it, but I think it's very important because, you know, it might seem vapid, but it's not. It's actually very deep and very ingrained, or it's gonna be very ingrained into the generation of tomorrow. Chapter 4. Is it worth it though? Chapter 4 is where I tell you about me. It's also where I give you the backstory of the question I was asking in the introduction. And it's also hopefully where you help me answer it. I don't know, just tell me what you think. My point is that for many years, I've been wanting surgery and I've been gaslighting myself into getting it. But I am not lying when I say that I've thought about this so many times. And at the same time, I know that it's a racial bias, that there is absolutely nothing wrong with my nose, and that what I'm desiring deep down is a whiter looking nose. Not because I want to be white, but think, okay, let me tell you, if I got plastic surgery, what kind of nose will I get? I would like to get a pointier tip, and I would like to make my nose holes smaller. What is that? Like that it's a traditionally Northern European nose. That's the nose that everyone gets these days. And I know that for a fact. Like I'm smart enough and I'm deconstructed enough and feminist enough, honestly, like I'm just gonna say it like that, to know that this is the background, you know? It's like why is the reason why we all want to be skinny is because of patriarchal reasons. We know that, I know that. And in this case, it's also because of racist reasons. Doesn't mean that sometimes it's not hard to fight against this urge. And the reason why I've been having a dilemma about whether is it worth it to get certain, actually no, I want to word the question better. If you were promised to ascend socially by getting plastic surgery, does it make total sense? Is it the logical choice to go on and get surgery? Like if pretty will make you live a better life, would it be the reasonable choice to get surgery? Why have I been thinking about that? You know Simi and Haze, right? And now this is where just the casual part starts. If you don't know them, let me introduce them very briefly to you because to be honest, I don't know that much about them. They're kind of mysterious, but Simi and Haze are two twins from a very rich family from, I don't know, Calabasas. I don't know, from LA or whatever. They're friends with this whole like Kylie Jenner gang and stuff like that. They looked like this and they look like this today. Very obviously they got the same amount of plastic surgery in order to remain looking the same, because I feel like it's probably weird, no? If you've had a person that is a copy of yourself, suddenly you look at them and you look in the mirror and you're different. Might be like a mind fuck, and also will be a way of people definitely knowing that one of them got plastic surgery. What have I thought about these girls until now? Well, that they were just doing the influencer trope. Famous people with a lot of resources and good doctors that wanted to get more beautiful, get more Instagram face, and they made a career out of it. And I always tend to assume, and I know that this is maybe wrong for me to think, and it might sound like I'm thinking that I'm morally superior than them, but I tend to think that people that do this are kind of materialistic and superfluous, and that they only think about their appearance and they're not thinking about the politics behind it or whatever, you know, like how some of us feel about the Kardashian family, etc., etc. They're just looking to be prettier, to get more attention, to get more money, make money out of it, kind of thing. I know, again, this sounds so obnoxious and it makes me sound so morally superior, but that's how I felt. I'm sorry. I think a lot of you might resonate with what with what I'm saying here. The thing is that one of them, Simi, she happens to go to Harvard and she happens to have a podcast. And I listened to this podcast. I was just curious about the lore of Simi Haze in Harvard. But I ended up listening to the podcast and it was so interesting, and she's so smart and she brings such good points to the table. And I even wrote down some of the things that they were discussing about because they were really, really interesting. Life is not about proving yourself, but improving yourself. So smart. And since I watched that podcast, my impression of her has changed. It makes me wonder if they made a conscious decision to get surgery from a practical point of view. Most probably they were just younger and they wanted to look prettier like the other girls, and they got plastic surgery. They didn't think much of it, and then they decided that they could make a career out of it because they're really beautiful, okay? Most probably that's what happened. But I like to think a lot about things, and I wonder if this girl sat down with her sister and she was like, how can we make a career? How can we attract people? Will we make something of ourselves if we looked a specific way? Is that our way in? Obviously there's more ways, but did they wonder, is that our way in? Yes. Okay. To the salon. Ding, 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 ding. Click. Instagram picture. Is that shark mentality? And I don't have shark mentality. I've said this before. I have cow mentality, but is that what shark mentality truly means? I just leave this moral question for you, this moral dilemma. I'm not saying that I agree with that. I actually think that I don't agree with it. But it does make me wonder, like, am I the only stupid one that is not giving in when I could? No, I'm not thinking that. But I'm thinking like, well, you know, do people that think this, do they have a point? I don't know. To me, it feels like I'm betraying myself. But because do I care too much about this? Like, very stupidly so. Why not just get it and go on with my life? What do you think? Am I being totally horrible for wondering if these girls have a point? I hope that I could convince you to, I guess, know the reasons why you're insecure, because the whole purpose of this video was to convince myself and gaslight myself again that no, I do not want, I know, surgery, and that I should instead just wait until we evolve enough to not consider Northern European beauty features the ideal. And now, guys, ding, 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 ding. I'm gonna edit this with cute music. I just want to chat with you for a while. This is the end of the video, so I think it's the perfect time for a chat. First of all, I just want to say that, wow, I did not know that the microbanks video was going to reach so many of you. I'm so thankful. I'm so happy so many of you subscribed. I'm so happy of all of the comments I got. A lot of you shared your story with microbanks, and you know, even if I couldn't reply to all, in the beginning I was trying to reply to all of them and stuff like that, but then this is more comments than I'd ever gotten, and I was feeling a bit overwhelmed because I'm not a person of social media. Like, on my private social media, I have very few followers. I was always ashamed at my Instagram account because I never had many followers. Like, do you know that when you first get your phone and you have like 7 contacts and the rest of kids have like 50, and I was just there being like, I have no friends. And now I have friends, but they're definitely less than the 1,000 of us that are subscribed to my channel right now. You know, I was feeling a bit overwhelmed, but I'm so thankful. It's so great that you enjoy my video, and I hope that you will enjoy this one a lot as well. I got many positive comments. Thank you, girls. I appreciate that. I got a lot of constructive criticism, which I asked for it, so I'm very thankful. Like, when I said in the past video, please give me your feedback, how can I improve? I actually meant it. So thank you a lot. A lot of smart people telling me like history facts that I didn't know about it. But I just want to address one comment that I got, that the reason why it stuck with me is because it had a tone of disappointment that this person felt towards me. To put it simply, this comment was saying that on the video it seemed like I didn't know what I was talking about, and that they clicked on my video trusting that I would give them complete, faithful, truthful information. And I'm not talking about the comments that like fill in with historical background, or that told me, hey, you actually made a mistake in this. Like, that is so helpful. I mean, this comment in particular was very angry. They were very angry, let's be honest. But it gave me the chance to talk about this, so maybe it wasn't all bad. And I want to talk about this by telling you, what is this channel? What is it going to be? And what I hope that is your view of it, which I know I can't really influence or anything like that. But the objective for my channel is to be sort of like an honest video diary of what's going on in my mind. The theme for my videos are not necessarily trends or what is happening in pop culture or politics or whatever. The way that I choose my videos is based on what is it that I'm interested in at the moment. What am I thinking? What is my obsession right now? What is my concern? I'm making a video about getting a nose job and looking into the history of nose jobs and finding out about the racist past and stuff like that, because this is something that I've done in my life. And I think that this is interesting. I want to share it with you guys. And I've done a video about microbanks because I literally just got microbanks to look cool, to get a new haircut. And I started to receive mixed feedback, and I was like, let me just Google this one day. And I found a really interesting story, and I wanted to share it with you. I think this is easier to see once you look at my past videos and you see that I've done a lot of reactions to things that I'm particularly very interested in. This doesn't mean that my facts are not factual. I don't know if that's a word in English. This doesn't mean that I haven't done my research or that my research is sloppy or anything like that. I'm just saying that I'm not claiming to be a historian, a doctor, or if I make a video about, I don't know, makeup. I'm not claiming to be a makeup artist. I want you to see it as Maria is busy online. And a lot of these things, before telling to you guys, I tell them to my friends, I tell them to my boyfriend, I share them with my circle, and then I share them with you now. So yes, I just wanted to address that, and I hope this doesn't come off as arrogante or anything like that. That's it, guys. Sorry for the rambling. I just thought we could talk. If you guys enjoyed this video, then give it a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment. I love comments. I say that in every video, but it is true. Yes, that's been like the most exciting thing because it makes you feel like there is actually someone on the other side of the screen. I think that was a sign that I need to stop yapping and finish the video. Thank you for being here. Bye bye.